President of the United States had promised that at midnight, January 1st, 1863, that those enslaved in the Confederate States would be free. That night, December 31st, 1862, watch night service started in Black America. They gathered, they sang, they prayed, they held hands, they cried, because they were waiting to see if Lincoln's words would become flesh. Reason why watch night service is different in our community and other communities is they are worshiping for a new year. But watch night was for us to watch to see if the Emancipation Proclamation was real. Because we knew that if we just got free, we didn't know where we was going. We didn't have property to go to. We didn't have rights anyone could respect. But if we could just get off the plantation, our change would come. Your change will come. The end of Reconstruction. We suffered terrorism and lynchings, 100 years of Jim Crow. And it's impossible to come out of that without some damage psychologically.
That's it.
But somehow we functioned anyhow.
That's it.
As Dr. Camille Yarborough said today, some of us a little crazy. But if you know what we've been through, normal is kind of difficult to even define. But before we give up on each other, know that this morning, that we stand here January the 1st, 2022, with a black mayor, black woman police commissioner, black schools chancellor. And if we use what we got, if we learn how we got all this power, black woman gonna be the speaker of the city council. If we turn to each other rather than on each other, we are, as Red Walk told us this morning, positioned for a transition, and our change will come. Change Ensemble, give them a big hand. Give them a big hand. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning for the Saturday Action Rally, and for you that are here live at the House of Justice, 145th Street and Lenox Avenue in the village of Harlem, and for you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York, and for you that are watching or listening to us on our platforms and various media platforms, we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning to give our report on where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And of course, give a hand to our Minister of Music, Minister Tyrone Richardson. And give our Chris, give the drummer some. Certainly we're happy to be with you on this New Year's Day. We're grateful to God. Let's give a hand out. Impact Television, his family is with us. We're grateful to God to see a new year. You should not take for granted. Some folks didn't make it. But whatever shape you in, you here. And you can straighten out what needs to be straightened out. So we're glad. Somebody asked me, y'all gonna have a rally New Year's Day? I said, if I'm up, I'll be at the rally. I remember there was an old preacher that said that, you know, he got up in age, he was in his 80s. He called me one morning and he said, Reverend, I said, yeah. He said, you know, my good friend Reverend so-and-so just passed. I said, yeah. He said, you know, week before last, Dr. so-and-so died, and then that same week so-and-so died. He said, I'm just laying here wondering when my time's coming. He said, wait a minute, I might be in the wrong position. I better get up with all these folks. So if you glad you living, you better get up and show some sign. This is the last day of the 7 days of Kwanzaa. And we're honored to have one of the outstanding heroes in our community, Dr. Camille Yabo. Give him a big hand. Dr. Yabo is going to do the Holy Nguzo Saba for us after we finished the action rally, and she was been a part of our organization from the beginning at the first House of Justice. And we are honored to have her with us, and Don Jones for getting her and working with her. We're also deeply honored to have my little sister Malika Shabazz, one of the daughter of Malcolm and Dr. Betty Shabazz. And Malika is near and dear to me and the family, and we are honoring the memory of Malak Shabazz, her twin sister. Let me tell you something, don't you ever forget.
Excuse me. I'm Malak.
Oh, she's Malak. Y'all give me.
Malika is my sister.
Malika is the one. I did it reverse because they twins.
That's okay, we're both Libras, so
That's right. You and I and her Libras. That's correct. But let me tell you something. Don't ever forget the sacrifice that this family made. Don't ever forget the sacrifice this family made for our community. And I was honored to know her mother well. I was on the 9 when her father was killed, but what Malcolm has done, and Dr. Betty Shabazz, don't forget Dr. Shabazz, what she's done. I will never forget, and I tell this story all the time, that when Dominique and Ashley became, get 3 and 4 years old, Dr. Shabazz called me. She was at Medgar College then, working at Medgar. And she called me to meet her at the office. And I went to the office, and she said, Sharpton? I said, yes. She said, how old are those girls now? I told her. She said, well, you know they're going to have to go to school in a year or 2. She said, I want you to bring them over to Johnson Preparatory School. It's a private Afrocentric school in Brooklyn. I said, private? What I'm gonna do over there? She said, go over there, because with your name in controversy you starting, them girls should not go to public school and have to deal with some of the stuff that my kids would know about, but others helped us. She said, you go over there, I've already paid for the first 2 years of their education. She said, people help me with my daughters, I'm gonna help you. That's how she became their godmother. And I'll never forget what Dr. Betty Shabazz did for my family. And then, of course, I always tease about how she and I used to go to Wells Chicken and Waffle and have our diet waffles with dessert. We tell ourselves it was diet anyway. But so I'm so happy to have her with us. On a sad note, I want to sadly announce that one of our dear members, one of our bedrock members, Brother Russell Grady from New Jersey, passed this week. And you know, many of you know him, he was here every week, and Russell Grady passed. And many of you hear about me talk on my Sunday show on WBLS about the street doctor. He passed this week. So we're saddened the street doctor and Russell Grady, and we dedicate this broadcast to both of them. Let me congratulate, of course, Eric Adams, who was sworn in as mayor last night. When we started National Action Network, when we left Brooklyn and came to Harlem to PS 175, and Michael Hardy said we had to incorporate because you could not start and go forward without incorporation papers. One of the people on the incorporation papers was a black policeman from Brooklyn named Eric Adams. And he has been with us ever since, and he was here Thanksgiving Day, giving out food. He was here on Christmas Day and has been faithful to us, and we congratulate him and look for the best in his administration. And I think that that is something we look forward to. And let me also say that, give a hand also, I want to give a special hand. He really came with a pointed message to Reverend Watt, who, Pastor Watt did a great message from City of Refuge, and him mentioned my friend Bishop Noel Jones. And, but he did a message. I'm going to call Noel and tell him he come in here and tried to take the House of Justice from me this morning. Let me also say, when I see Camille, I think about things in Harlem. I'm going to say something that Hardy going to get on me later, but it don't matter. One of the reasons that I've been very disciplined about how we are dealing with our renting National Action Network space and renting the museum space if the developers come, is that I support that whatever is needed for the community must be done, or they should not be able to do it. But don't confuse, you know, you got some folks run around here like I'm a developer, or that I'm with the developers. We are leasing space, and they bought this corner from a black family who never told us they were selling it, because I could have gone to some of our supporters and tried to raise the money and buy it myself. So when we look up and the developers had bought the whole block, we negotiated that we did not want to be displaced. First law of gentrification is you displace folk. The only ones that could have suffered displacement was us, the chicken store, the mosque around the corner. We the victims, not the partners. I don't need no developers give me no money. I make enough on my radio and TV show. I can help lend him a few if he needs some. So don't believe this foolishness. Well, they're out there, Al, why ain't you out there leading the fight? Well, let me tell you what seeing Camille reminded. They were removing some vendors off 125th Street and evicting a brother with a record store called Sharpton. Is that right? Sakula Sharpton. I stood up against them evicting him, Freddie's clothing store. And when I stood up, made this whole message and stood up, all of the rah-rah crowd went down and did whatever. 3 or 4 months later, a guy burned the store down and killed himself. And the Giuliani administration tried to blame me. Put me under investigation, had a grand jury. You will not Freddie's me on this. And I tell you to beware of provocateurs. They're going to get in this and turn it into something it is not. Now, I said on the radio, run and tell that. I support whatever the community do, but do not think I'm going for a setup the second time. Now, if you talk about Red Man, you got the community meeting, I'm on radio, loud enough for the whole everybody hear me. You can Google it up if you're too young. Freddie's Fight, they tried to put all of us away. Blaming us from something where we stood up like we stand up and now saying, do not displace people and do not come in the community and run people out. We said that then. Y'all left us holding the bag. The boom boom crowd left us. Now, touch somebody next to you and say, Red Mouth, straighten that out. One of the things that we do as a habit, and Katrina Jefferson always talks about my morning thoughts that I do on Instagram. One of the things that we do as a habit every New Year's Day is we make New Year's resolutions. But the reason why, most of us make New Year's resolutions and we don't even keep them till February 1st. Get up and lie every year. I'm really gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. The reason why most of us can't keep a resolution, which is why I like the way that WAP spoke this morning, is in order to keep a resolution, you must be resolved to be a different type of person. Without a resolve, you can't have a resolution. So you can't just jump up and talk about, I'm giving up sweets, and you haven't resolved that you're going to change your diet. You can't get up and say, I'm going to give up smoking if you haven't resolved that you're going to make that move. Most of us have not resolved of the change we need in life. Or as he spoke, the position for the transition. You can't have a transition without reposition. And too many of us are trying to get to graduation without passing the test that you passed the grade to graduate with. We need to resolve who and what we are. That's why right now, as we deal with January 1st, Emancipation Day, one of the things and I was so glad as Dr. Yabo was bringing it, one of the things that we've got to deal with is the last word of Nia is our spirituality. Because the fight for our empowerment and liberation was always a spiritual fight. We never had the money or the weapons that they had. What we had was a stronger moral, spiritual base that they could not stifle or inhibit. And once we took that out of the movement, they can overpower us because they have more weapons and more money. You ain't going to out-capitalize capitalists. You're not going to scare them with talking about your gun that you bought from them. I just got the other day. Well, brother, I appreciate what you do, but I'm for armed struggle. Okay. Where you going to get the arms from? show me where we got the zoo boo boo gun manufacturer. So you think they're gonna sell you enough for you to fight them? And the bullets too. And what grade did you graduate from? The power we had was our internal strength that even with the Middle Passage, even with millions of us dying in the Atlantic, even with the dehumanization, they couldn't break our spirit. What we're looking at right now, let me tell you the reason why this fight around a voting rights bill is so important is that the whole battle between the North and the South was a battle between states' rights and a union. The concept was that they would have one union that would govern the 50 states, or a decentralized form of government with states' rights. So Mississippi would decide for Mississippi what Mississippians would do, and Georgia for Georgians, and Floridians by Florida, on and on and on. It was based on that states were saying that we will decide whether we'll have slavery or not. Slavery was a state-by-state proposition. And when they came and said they were entertaining freeing the slaves, Confederate states said they're going to secede from the Union. Union meaning the United States. When they tried to succeed, it broke out into the Civil War. And it was states' rights against the Union. They built up. Don't ever underestimate what they got now. That's why they got the Senate all tied up now. Democrats got 50 seats, but Republicans got 50. Biden got more votes than any candidate for president in the history of the country, but the second one was Trump. Don't underestimate now how many folk is against you.
That's it. Tell them, Rev.
Don't you ever forget that Trump got more votes than Kennedy or Johnson or Obama or Clinton.
That's it. Tell them, Rev.
And that was just last year. So them folk ain't gone nowhere.
74 million.
You can talk about back in the day, them folk is dead. Them folk is alive. They voted last November.
Tell them, Rev.
And they are now using states' rights to change the voting laws. 17 states have already changed voting laws. So when we are fighting for federal law, John Lewis Voting Act, freedom to vote, we are fighting that there be federal law that supersedes states' rights, which runs you right back into the Civil War. When they were fighting the Civil War, Lincoln was not a leader of I'm for the black folks. Lincoln did not believe in black equality. Lincoln said that we are not equal, but we ought to treat them better.
Right.
And Lincoln gradually was pressured into saying that you got to free the slaves in order to break the economic interests of the South.
Tell them, Rev.
Northern industrialists wanted the Southern cabal that was running the agriculture, cotton and tobacco. The only way to break them was the source of their wealth was they had free labor.
Right. Tell them, Rev.
And if we could take their free labor, then we can break their economic hold. How do you break their free labor? Free the slaves.
That's it.
So we became a football between different interests. Then there were others fighting. There some William Lloyd Garrisons and others in New England that were talking about the humanity of blacks and how could we talk about what we're talking about. All men are created equal and treat these men like this. And they come back with, they are not full men. They're 3/5 of a man. They had to dehumanize us to justify what they were doing. That's why, like I said, at our 30th anniversary, we had to come to the realization over time, that was part of why Malcolm was so important, of what was done to us was so dehumanizing that for generations we inherited that. Y'all know the story about a few years ago when New York Daily News found my great-grandfather was a slave in Ellenville, South Carolina, and I went down there. And it occurred to me when I was walking around that plantation where my great-grandfather was a slave, that every time I write my name, I am writing the name of the man that owned my great-grandfather. Sharpton ain't my name. Sharpton is the name of my owner.
Hello, man.
Smith ain't your name. Smith is who owns you. So that whole process, Lincoln and them said we got to bust up the agricultural monopoly they got in the South. Then the Confederate Army picked up steam and got as far north as Maryland and Virginia. The abolitionists, who had an articulate, eloquent runaway slave named Frederick Douglass, started pressuring them to free the blacks in the South and let them join the Union Army. And Lincoln reluctantly said that I will free them and let them join the army. They would not even pay them what they paid whites. They would not able to integrate in the barracks. They could die, but they couldn't be treated equally. And they joined the Union Army and backed the Confederate Army up and won the Civil War. And then went and told children, you and I when we were kids, how Lincoln freed the slaves, when in fact the slaves freed Lincoln. As they began seeing the freedom was about to happen, as they began to see the Union was going to win, Lincoln wrote what became known as the Emancipation Proclamation. And in the proclamation, he had tried a lot of things. He said he met with some black leaders. You know how they can convene black leaders and make them leaders. Y'all didn't know they was leading y'all till they told y'all. So turn on the news tonight, you're going to meet your leaders. He met with them and said, now, I tell you what, we can make a deal and bring all of y'all back to Liberia. Well, Lincoln and them had all kinds of schemes. Let's send blacks back to Africa. Hello? He said, well, how are we going to get all these Africans to go to Africa? I don't know, just get them out of here. Just anything. And he signed the Emancipation Proclamation that as of January 1st, 1863, that those blacks in the Confederate States, in the South, would be free. And that's where, as I said earlier, that's where Watch Night comes from. Now, I want y'all to get this. Lincoln did not free the blacks in the North.
Tell the story.
Emancipation Proclamation had nothing to do with blacks enslaved in New York, in New Jersey, in other places. That's why when we started National Action Network, and I said that we wanted to bring some of the things that I learned coming out of the King movement. I was born in Brooklyn, not Birmingham. And there was a mentality here that we had not dealt with. We still had a different form of enslaved mentality, different than the South. And we had to confront that. That's why Malcolm was important. Because slaves in the North were slaves with swagger.
Tell him.
You weren't no more free, but you just had a little more cockiness about you.
Yeah.
And you had to be organized and mobilized differently. So you got the Emancipation Proclamation. Northern blacks still enslaved. Southern blacks free, but free to do what? Well, we're going to give you 40 acres and a mule. Never got it. So you were free with no money, no economic base. Fought to get the right to vote. Had what they call Reconstruction. And in the Reconstruction period, we started organizing and building on our own. Built our own black churches. Built our own black colleges. Built our own black banks. Built our own businesses. Put 22 people in Congress. In the Reconstruction, we went from emancipation to a real transition. But the inbuilt racism, they could not tolerate that. Because you got to remember, that's why I told you they had to teach white supremacy to justify slavery. So if you teach people from the founding fathers all the way to 1862, if you teach people that they are superior, if you teach people that I don't care how broke you are as a white man, you better than a black with money.
Right.
They were trained this.
Tell him, man.
They were given that kind of ingrained mentality. So as blacks in Reconstruction started prospering, they could not stand that.
That's it. Tell him, man.
And there rose the Ku Klux Klan.
That's it.
There rose the White Citizens Council. That's where the lynching stopped. Because my daddy and my granddaddy told me I'm better than you. How you a member of Congress? How you got a black bank? How you got Black Wall Street on Tulsa? And I'm a broke farmer with no crop. And by the turn of the century, 20th century, 1900, there were no black banks, no blacks in Congress. Had lynched people. They would come and go to church on Sunday and then come to the town square and lynch blacks. And the same folk that had just got through praising the Lord stood there and picnicked watching them lynch us. Just like we deal now with watching our population in the prisons 2 and 3 times the population in the community. So we then start a struggle for civil and human rights. And all the way through the 20th century, you had those that were fighting to get our rights. From A. Philip Randolph, W.B. Du Bois founded NAACP, all the way up to the movement in the 50s. At the same time, people trying to restore our pride and restore the damage done where we felt we were less than.
Yeah.
Marcus Mosiah Garvey
Yeah.
and others. At the same time, you needed the balance because you had the internal breakdown and the external lack of rights. That's why we need what we're going to do with this museum. You need to know what had to happen in the North. We had Randolph and Garvey in New York at the same time. Ain't nowhere in town showing you that story. We had Adam Clayton Powell, elected to the New York City Council in 1942, first black. Then went on in 44 to Congress. Where is the institution that talks about that? How do these kids know that story? First black woman, go to Congress, 1968, Shirley Chisholm from Bed-Stuy. There's a direct line from the struggle with Shirley Chisholm to Kamala Harris. But if you don't know who you are, you'll let others tell you who you are. and they'll hire your own children to wrap you into inferiority. I grew up at a time when the last poets was talking about the revolution won't be televised. I grew up at a time when Nina Simone was talking about young, gifted, and black. I grew up at a time James Brown was singing "Say It Loud and Black and Proud." But my children grew up where you now make every record calling us niggas, calling our women hoes. It is the psychological enslavement of people broken to not feel like who they are. That's why it took you over 30 years to get another black man. And you're going to try to beat him down. Watch, they're going to jump on Eric things they never said to Giuliani or Bloomberg. That's why when they question these developers coming to Harlem, they rather jump on the Sharpton. We ain't doing nothing but rent. Because you're scared to step up and jump on the master. I'm still on the radio. I'm talking to y'all. We've been trained to be conduits of self-hate. People mad. Heard one guy a few weeks ago. Man, I got a TV show, but he ain't mad at Fox News. I get on TV and try to fight for our issues. Stand up for Ahmaud Arbery. Stand up for George Floyd. But you want me off the air. But they can call you names all night long on Fox. You don't open your mouth one time. Train self-hate. What the preachers doing? Trying to restore your people, that's what they do. Trying to build up institutions. So here we are now. Emancipation Day 2021. I remember a few months ago when Joe Biden as president went to Tulsa. And some of us went out there as the first president to even deal with the Tulsa massacre. They killed scores of blacks because a black boy was accused of assaulting a white woman, stepping on her toe in the elevator. But they really killed them because they had wanted to level down those institutions. They resented black success.
That's it.
And here we are in 21, where what are they doing? They taking away your right to vote because what did they see when they looked at 8 years of Barack Obama and then they come back with the backlash of Donald Trump and then you come back answering the backlash of Trump with a Kamala Harris and a Stacey Abrams. You got black women standing up more eloquent than anybody in the country. They've got to stop this. They've got to target this and stop this. And I'm telling you that we need to stop tearing each other down and lift each other up because they are trying to end a second Reconstruction. That's why people come to me and say, Red Mal, you hear what so-and-so said about you? No, I didn't hear it, but I probably did it. Don't worry about it. Let's keep focused. Yeah, but he don't like you. Well, sometime I get up, I ain't crazy about myself. Let's keep focused. Let us stop this madness or pit each other against each other. We are not each other's enemies. We can't be each other's help if we get out of the way and keep our eye on the prize. That's why it runs right back to what the seventh principle of Nguzo faith,
Yeah.
our spiritual power. The only way that people on plantations that had to work from sun up to sundown could have made it through all of that is they had faith.
That's it.
The only way that they could have even survived watching the brutality of the Atlantic slave trade is to have faith. I was telling Attorney Hardy in the office this week about I was blessed to have gone to Goree Island both in Senegal and in Ghana, because both ports have what they call the door of no return. And Reverend Walker, when I stood there, I couldn't describe the feeling. In '94 was the first time I went. In Dakar, Senegal, I couldn't describe the feeling of standing there and the guy tell you, this is the door of no return. When you went through this door, you knew you were either going to die in the Atlantic or make it to the so-called New World and be a slave. But you never coming back no more. And you look out at that ocean through the door of no return and think about how most of them never made it. Most of them were eaten up by sharks. Most of them had to face, you talk about a pandemic, wasn't nothing but pandemics coming across the Atlantic. So only those that had a strong enough faith and a strong enough resistant body made it. That's why, Dr. Camille Yarborough, I know we can make it now because we're the children of the strongest Africans. The weak ones died in the Atlantic. Our great-grandparents were the ones that could take the pandemics and could take the abuse. You got to know who you are. And they could see things that wasn't apparent, but they believed if they held on, that somehow my children, or my grandchildren, or my great-grandchildren would make a way somehow. They had a rock faith. They had a faith that was unshakable. That you could take their name and break down their families, but they still had the regal bearing of the royalty of Africa. You couldn't break our spirit. That's why our faith, our reaching out, I don't care how you reach out. I don't care what denomination or religion. Reach out. I heard somebody say this week, I never thought about it this way. Those of us that are Christian, everybody walked that Jesus touched was healed. But there was one woman that he didn't reach out and touch. She ran through the crowd. And her faith. So she wasn't on the schedule that day. Nobody said the woman with the issue of blood is going to be there at 2:10. Nobody in the entourage thought she was much of nothing. Nobody was trying to help her when she was trying to get through the crowd. But she was determined because she had made a resolution. She had resolved, if I could just touch, I don't want him to talk to me. I don't need no appointment. I don't need a meeting. I don't want him to hear how I got the issue of blood. All I want is to touch the hem of his garment, and everything will be all right. Everyone that Jesus touched was healed. But the woman that reached out and touched him was made whole. Only one that was made whole is the one that reached out to him. I didn't get up this morning in the new year asking God to reach out to me. I'm reaching out to him. I want to be made whole. Sometime I'll let you go. Sometime. If you're going to get whole. If you're going to be made whole. Sometimes you're going to have to be by yourself. Bible talks about how God sets aside those that he used. Sometimes folk going to say, why you going to rallies? Because you set aside. Why you don't go to us hanging out doing silly things? Because you set aside. Why you don't talk to us about frivolous stuff? Set aside. Why are you studying rather than watching Housewives of the Ignorant? Because you set aside. So rather than ask yourself, is something wrong with you? God didn't set you aside because something was wrong with you. God set you aside because there's something right in you. And he needs you to be aside so he can build up your righteousness. And that's why you can run by yourself. Because everybody that ever made a difference had to walk a lonely path. And sooner or later, everybody else will follow suit. They were not popular. The road to destruction is wide, with many travelers. But the road to glory is a narrow road, traveling now and then. When Dr. King was killed, April 4th, 1968, the polls had him, where his unfavorable was higher than his favorable in the black community. Last time he came to Harlem, March of 68, he came to install Y.T. Walker's Pastor Canaan Baptist Church. Some of our brothers told him, get out of town, we don't want that nonviolence. Threw eggs at his car. Malcolm, stalked by black folks. Oh, 2 or 3 people here today was in the Audubon Ballroom. They will tell you what millions of people coming to Malcolm. But 60 years later, heads of state, babies at universities all over the world know about Malcolm, know about Martin. You might have to walk alone, but God will take your lonely walk and turn the world upside down. That's why I encourage you today, we've got to fight this second Reconstruction era. We got to fight to preserve this right to vote. We got to fight to keep these police in line. But we got to use what we got. Right here in New York, as of this moment, got a black mayor, black woman gonna head the city council, black woman police chief, black superintendent of school. We got to use what we got to get what we want. We got 56 blacks in Congress, some of them good, some of them bad, but we're gonna use them all to get what we want. Because if you think about it, we got here on the bows of ships. Now we're sitting up vice president of the United States. They never intended for us to get where we at. We need to stop killing each other and raise each other up. If we use what we got, we can get what we want. That's why that spiritual power will make you forgive your brother. Even he might have been wrong, but forgive him anyhow. Even though there may have been some miscalculation, the blood that binds us is thicker than the waters that divide us. We've been through worse, we can get through this. Because somehow, I know that God will bless us if we bless each other. God is still on the throne. And we're the children of those that believed in it. It was so beautiful. Derek Ferguson, our faith was so strong that one day on a voyage across that mean, perilous Atlantic, storm rose up. Slave trader was bringing in a shipment of us, and the storm ripped the ship apart. He looked and knew he was going to die in the water. Grabbed and caught the oars, let the chains go of his packaged slaves. But somehow the slaves kept humming some melody that they learned on the banks of West Africa. And they were humming and chanting, because we always chanted and hummed. This holiness dance we do in church comes from Africa. We always had it. People talk about, I don't shout in church. You were shouting in Africa before you got here. And when the winds calmed down and the storm went away, the slave trader couldn't believe how those slaves bleed and never panicked through the storm. How they had grace under pressure. And he sat down and said, you know, I thought I knew a lot coming out of whatever manifestation of religion he had. He said, but these folk have a grace that I never saw. In fact, it's amazing grace. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound. Saved a wretch like me. I once was lost. Now I'm found. Blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. I didn't come unafflicted to 2021. I didn't come unbruised. I got scars on me. But through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. It was grace. Wasn't that I was that smart? It was grace. Wasn't that I was that slick? It was grace. It wasn't that I knew people in high places. It was grace that brought me safe this far. And grace, and grace, and grace will lead me on. Come on, 21. I'm ready for you, 21. His grace is efficient. His grace is sufficient. His grace is sufficient for me.
Ah
Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. I'll open the doors of the movement. There may be someone here on this first Saturday in 2022 that have never joined National Action Network, that have never became a member. If you here and never joined, as we start a new year and we get all of our committees and divisions re-energized, never would there be a better time and for you to join than to join this morning, to be one of the first on the roll in 2022. If you're here and not a member, come on to me and let us sign you up this morning. Come on. Everybody singing. Come on. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. We want justice. We want justice. Come on. Everybody sing it. One last time. One last time. Everybody sing it. All right. See how Sam Roberts walked? That's why I was talking about the swagger. That's a northern thing. They don't walk like that down south. That's a Harlem swagger thing. He had a cane when he don't even need a cane to walk. That's a swagger. We 9 years old with canes. Ain't nothing wrong with our legs. All right, I'm gonna raise our offering and then taking our new member and dismiss and let Don Jones and Political Action come forward. We are going to, you that are gonna remain, we're gonna get out the way quickly because we want them to have the Kwanzaa celebration. We're honored that Camille Yarborough is here, Sister Shabazz, in memory of Sister Shabazz. And we do this every year. Don Jones, aside from being on the national board, has headed our political action committee here. In fact, the 50th anniversary of Kwanzaa was 2016. And Milana Karenga, the founder, came and did it here because of Don Jones. And all right, so let's raise our offering. And then we'll take in the member and dismiss and let Don and them come in. Get started. You ain't got nowhere to go. It's raining anyhow. I want everybody to give to the best of their ability. I need about 10 people to start off the year with $100 or more, about 10. Guardians, $100. Mayor Rodney Jones, Queensbridge Housing, $100. Winston Gilchrist, $100. Membership, $100. Welcoming committee, $100. Brother Roberts, $100. Carolyn Jones, $100. Godfather Harlem, Lloyd Williams, $100. Brother Sabuni, $100. All right, 50s, 50s, 50s. 50s. Fifties, 50s. Sister Diana. Minister Carolyn. 20s, 20s, 20s. 20s. All right, we got you. All right. Now everybody, whatever you have, $1, $5, $10, 20 Rev Dawson.